All right, welcome, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours with Michael Kitces. So for this week's episode, I want to talk a little bit about paraplanners, that kind of entry-level role that new financial planners seek out as they're coming into advisory firms. Now, I'm actually not going to talk today about paraplanners necessarily from the perspective of the person seeking the job, but from the firm owner's perspective. So when you're a financial advisor, when would you hire a paraplanner? What do they do for you? How do you find one? So this cues up this week on a question that came in from Eric. So a little of Eric's backstory here that he had sent in. Eric said, I started out as a financial advisor 6 years ago after getting downsized out of my prior industry in the recession. I've had a pretty good run. I'm now over 60 clients and about $250,000 in revenue. I'm realizing that I'm probably at a stage where I should hire someone and was going to send out a job listing for an admin support person when a colleague told me I should hire a paraplanner instead. But I'm not clear what the difference is. So what does a paraplanner do to support a financial advisor, and how is that different from hiring admin support? So a great question, Eric. And frankly, first of all, I want to just congratulate you on making a successful career change or transition into financial planning. Getting up to 60 clients and $250,000 in 6 years is a pretty darn solid success. Lots of advisors come in and do not reach that level of success as quickly as you have. So kudos, particularly since it sounds like you've done it without any admin support at all so far, since you've raised this as kind of hiring the first person. But at the same time, I can only imagine the wall that you're starting to feel now and the need to delegate tasks when you've got that many clients and that much work going on. And, I've seen a lot of advisors go through this. You get so many clients that, like, you don't even really want another new client because you're not necessarily ready to do the work that would actually be entailed in getting more new clients. Or maybe you just want a better work-life balance. So let's tackle this question of what a paraplanner actually does. So I think the first thing actually is to recognize what a paraplanner does not do. The role of a paraplanner is not to manage client relationships, is not for you to hand clients off to them. And the role of a paraplanner is not to bring in new clients. So this isn't like the bullpen at an insurance firm or a wirehouse where you give them a phone book and a phone and say, go get some business. That's a sales recruit or a sales associate or something. It's not a paraplanner. So the role of a paraplanner is not managing client relationships and bringing in new clients. Frankly, that's your job as the lead financial advisor. The primary thing a paraplanner should be doing is freeing up your time so that you can do those things better in the business. Now, one way actually to look at this is, so think about, as an advisor, what do you want to earn in a year? Whatever that number is, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. Some people go higher than that. So take that number, divide that by 2,000. That is essentially your targeted hourly rate. So if you want to make $200,000 net, divided by 2,000, the value of your time is $100 an hour. So anything that you do with your time that is not worth $100 an hour because it could be delegated to someone else for less than that, you should be hiring and delegating. As soon as you hit the wall where you don't have enough time to just do everything in the business because you've got too many clients, that's when you start delegating. So you think about it in terms of your own business, Eric. Where are your bottlenecks as an advisor that a paraplanner in particular can help out with? So here are the areas that I usually see of what paraplanners are doing. Number one is they do the bulk of constructing financial plans. Actually building the plan. So managing the financial planning software, gathering the data form, doing the input, running the scenarios, printing the reports, collating into a deliverable for clients. All of that stuff would get done primarily by the paraplanner. You might supervise it. You may look at the final plan before it goes out. You may suggest some scenarios to test. But the bulk of that work gets done by the paraplanner. You, as the financial advisor lead, should not be doing data entry and scenarios in your own financial planning software when you're hitting that growth wall. Other pieces that the paraplanner might do, all the plan updates. Clients have new information and need a new projection. That should come from the paraplanner. In fact, anything really that you produce as a deliverable for your annual reviews with clients should get done by the paraplanner. Researching one-off questions. When clients ask unusual questions, you don't know the answer offhand, you have to go get the answer. That shouldn't actually be you getting the answer. That should be your paraplanner getting the answer, bringing it to you reviewing it, and then bringing that back to the client where the paraplanner does the bulk of the work, not you. Your paraplanner should be in client meetings, all your client meetings, with a couple of key items that they do. Capturing all the notes of the meeting, which frankly lets you focus more on the client anyways when you don't have to worry about scribbling down notes because someone else is taking notes for you. Capturing action items, takeaways, things that have to be follow-ups to the client afterwards, and then actually being responsible for following up on them. Your paraplanner can then take all those notes and put them into the CRM, take all the follow-up tasks, create task or workflows in the CRM. All that can get driven by the paraplanner. And frankly, you may even find that your paraplanner becomes the initial point of contact for the client. I mean, basically, they help to screen for you. Now, you could have admin staff do that, but the point of the paraplanner is that easy financial planning questions that come in might actually just get answered by the paraplanner. That phone call, hey, it's January, we hadn't actually done our IRA contribution yet. Can we still do it for last year because it's January? That question doesn't really need to come to you. That's a fairly straightforward factual answer. Your paraplanner can answer, yes, actually, you have until tax deadline of April 15th to make that contribution. Now, the hard stuff still gets passed to you, but some of that actually can get screened out. Now, there's still this question, like, what's the distinction between paraplanner and admin staff support? And really, the distinction is the depth of the financial planning work that's being done. So your admin staff can help with raw paperwork, new account forms, ACATs, insurance and annuity applications, managing your calendar, scheduling appointments, duties that don't actually require financial planning knowledge. But your admin staff can't answer financial planning questions. Your admin staff probably cannot do effective financial plans, building the plan, doing the projections, crafting reports, creating action items and recommendations, because they don't have the financial planning expertise. They haven't been through the financial planning coursework. That's the difference between pure admin duties and a paraplanner. And it also means, frankly, if your paraplanner is only doing admin duties like that, you're underutilizing your paraplanner. They should be doing more advanced financial planning work. Now, when would you hire a paraplanner? Because frankly, ultimately, advisors tend to end out with both. As the business grows more and more, eventually there's so much stuff going on that you need an admin person just to do all the admin paperwork, and you need a paraplanner to do all of the planning work as well. So the more growth that happens, the more support structure you're going to build around you. Now, when people hire, frankly, the answer is when they hit capacity. So capacity for you is when you find you've got almost no time for finding new clients and growing, because you just have all that service work for existing clients. Maybe because you're not happy with the work-life balance that you've got because of existing service demands for clients. Some advisors I've seen really get themselves into trouble with this, and they actually start self-sabotaging their own growth. Usually it's subconsciously. If you've ever had that feeling, you're thinking about a new client or you've got a good new lead, but all you can think is, oh my God, I don't know when I'm going to find the time to do their plan for a new client on top of all the other clients that I've got and the stuff that I'm working on. You have already passed the danger point. You are now undermining your new client process because you're afraid of getting new clients because you're already at capacity. That's a problem. Now, in practice, I find advisors, some start hitting this bottleneck as early as about 30 clients. Most, I find, hit it somewhere around 50 to 70 clients. The faster you grow, the more rapidly you tend to hit this, because the biggest amount of work for clients tends to be the new clients that are coming on board, both administratively, all the paperwork for new accounts and transfers and advisory agreements and all the rest, as well as all the financial planning work that may come up. So Eric said he's at 60 clients after 6 years, so averaging about one a month. So that's probably been manageable. I'm not surprised you're just starting to feel the pain now. If you were growing at 2 a month, you frankly probably would have been suffering earlier. If you're growing really rapidly and you're bringing on a client a week, which would be very fast for what most firms would do, but any pace like that, you'd probably be buried at this point. Now, of course, the second constraint is that you just have to be able to afford it. At best, hiring professional staff is one step backwards to take 2 steps forward. Candidly, at least relative to advisory firm metrics, you should be fine at $250,000 of revenue to hire this staff member. I know firms that do it as early as about $150,000 of revenue. Most commonly, about $200,000 to $400,000 of revenue is where I see the hiring happen. Now, it's actually driven more by clients than revenue. If you had $400,000 of revenue because you had 20 multimillionaires, you might be fine. But at $250,000 of revenue and 60 clients, as you said, you're already feeling the pinch, and that's what I commonly see for most advisors. So that's when the wall starts coming in. Now, in terms of what it costs, so we have a couple of industry benchmarking studies that look at average compensation. FA Insight does a very good one. Their last People in Pay study showed that the average paraplanner earns $52,000 salary plus a couple $1,000s a year in benefits. So they might be at 55-ish or so. Obviously, as a firm owner, you're going to be closer to 60 because you're going to have to pay employment taxes on top of that. Last year's Investment News compensation and staffing study was a little bit higher. They put median paraplanner comp at about $60,000. But there are a bunch of industry benchmarking studies that all find this number in kind of the mid to high 50s for total comp. Seems to be about where the number is. Some studies will call them support advisors or associate advisors. Others call them paraplanners, but it's a fairly consistent framing. Now, there's some regional variation. If you're out in the Midwest where cost of living is lower, you might find that typical paraplanner salaries are more like high 40s. If you get out to the coast and expensive cost of living area cities, you might find you've got to go low, mid, or even high 60s in order to do it. There's also a little bit of a trend in the industry that smaller firms tend to pay a little bit below average. Larger firms tend to pay a little bit above average as well. And to contrast that, admin staff, again, this varies a little by where you are regionally, but you're probably mid-30s to upper 40s. So you're going to pay maybe a $10,000 to $15,000 premium to get a paraplanner over admin staff. Now, typically, in terms of what they'll get, your paraplanner is at least working on their CFP education. They may have actually completed the exam and have a year or two of experience. Typically, the paraplanner will not have their CFP marks done yet, if only because they're waiting for the experience requirement. At the point they've got the experience requirement, they actually have the CFP marks. They tend to be at the higher end and more expecting to move up more quickly. They're not going to stay long in that paraplanner job if they've already got 3 or 4 years of experience and the CFP marks. Doc had asked a question earlier about licensing as well. So this will vary a little bit by what advisory environment you're in. Erica was from an RIA, so on the RIA side, they may need a Series 65. At the moment, you're going to have them actually answer any kind of question from clients realistically. You should have them get a Series 65 and list them as an IAR in your RIA. If the paraplanner is purely internal and has no client-facing interaction, you can probably get away with not registering them and not having them take the 65. But frankly, if your candidate can pass the CFP exam, which is what most firms are looking for, the Series 65 should not be a big deal, and many of them will have waived out of the exam if they've already got their CFP exam. If not, they'll waive out of it as soon as they get their marks. So, if you're uncertain, they should be able to pass it easily at that point. Spend the $150, get them licensed so you don't have to worry about it. But ultimately, it comes down to whether they're client-facing and could be giving any form of advice or soliciting clients. Now, the other thing that's important to recognize when you talk about your paraplanner is that you're not just hiring the slightly more advanced skill set. Hey, I'm going to pay a $10,000 to $15,000 premium as a firm owner hiring staff because I want someone that I can delegate financial planning work to and not just paperwork to. The real opportunity for a paraplanner to add value to the firm is the career progression over time. It's the fact that a paraplanner who works out well should eventually not only support you on financial planning tasks, but once they demonstrate technical competency and begin to improve their relationship management skills, they should start taking over clients. Now, they'll start with small clients, but this is where the paraplanner's career progression comes from, and this is where the leverage comes from for your advisory business. When you can not just delegate tasks to free up your time, but you can delegate clients to free up your time to grow the business and basically to get bigger clients. Now, it's important to recognize here, I know a lot of advisors that get hung up on this idea of shifting clients as though they're ditching the client. You're not ditching or dumping your client when you transition them to your associate planner. What you're doing is you're recognizing that the client is not a client of yours. Your client is a client of your business. And a client of your business doesn't mean they automatically get you. A client of your business means they get a financial planner who represents your business, which may have started out with you when you were the only person, but now is someone else. in essence, this actually becomes the true transition from a practice to a business, is when the delivery of financial planning services goes beyond just you to your paraplanner who becomes an associate, who becomes a lead advisor, who moves up. And it's a tremendous leverage opportunity for the business. This is where eventually you want to get your paraplanner up to being a lead advisor, serving $200,000 of revenue for your smaller clients. You're going to pay them $90,000 or $100,000. You're going to have some overhead support, but you're going to make a $50,000 margin on the clients that you brought in and handed to your paraplanner, now lead advisor, several years down the road. That's kind of the nature of this hire, of taking one step backwards to take two steps forward, is ultimately it's not just about your ability to delegate tasks. It's about the opportunity to create a business that's bigger than just your personal capacity to serve clients. Now, because that's the path, I think it's also worth recognizing when you should not hire a paraplanner. The fact that the long-term payoff for a paraplanner comes from when they eventually move up, what that means is if you're inclined to stay small, if you don't really want to grow, if your desire is not to make this business that goes beyond you, hiring a paraplanner is probably not a good idea. Hire an admin staff, because if you don't plan to take other planners on down the road and shift clients to them, you will hit a capacity. Some people hit the wall at 60 clients, some people hit it at 80, some people hit it at 100. Maybe if you're really good at leveraging support staff, maybe you'll get to 110 or 120, but everybody tops out. And if you're not looking to grow beyond that, if you're not going to give clients to anyone else, if it's always going to be you, you will reach the point in your business where it stops growing. Now, that's okay from the perspective of running a practice. You can make a great income. I know people who have successful practices that take home $300,000, $500,000. I've seen people higher than that. It's them and two admin staff, and they're grossing $800,000 in their practice. You can have a fantastically profitable practice by just systematically moving up over time in how you run it. But they tend not to hire paraplanners. Because what's going to happen is if you hire a paraplanner into a company that has no growth and no upside for them, they're going to leave. It might take them a while to figure it out. They'll stay 2 or 3 years before they go elsewhere, but they're going to leave. Because the end of a paraplanner's career track is beyond paraplanner. For many people in admin roles, they may be happy to stay in an admin role. That's their work-life balance. Frankly, if you hire an admin person who wants to move up, you're going to get stuck as well, but paraplanners almost certainly want to move up. It's an entry-level position in a career track. And if you're not a growth firm, this isn't going to work. So, it's not just about kind of being at the pain point of capacity. It's also about what you ultimately want to be in the long run. You can think of medicine by analogy. If you want a more successful medical practice, you hire more nurses to support you. If you want to make a big medical business, you hire young doctors to grow with you. So as an advisor, do you want to just hire more support staff to be a more successful you? Or do you want to build a business where you need to hire young planners who can grow with you in the business? That's ultimately the distinction. As a couple of comments are pointing out, yes, practices have different business ramifications at the end. A practice is not going to sell for as much as a large business grows to. The distinction is you may also take home a heck of a lot more income along the way, and just to each their own about preferences. Some of us are hardwired to build businesses. Some of us really do not enjoy that process. I make no judgments about either, but recognize which one you're building. Because if you're building a practice, paraplanners are going to leave. That's just kind of the reality of it. They're going to figure out in a couple of years there's no upside. Now, this still leaves out the question of how you find a good paraplanner in the first place. So there are a couple of ways to do this. I know some people that simply do it through networking. You can try to reach out to some of the financial planning programs. If you've got one in your area, certainly you can form a relationship with the professors there. You can also go to some of the popular schools like Texas Tech and Virginia Tech. Frankly, I'd caution a little what we see in practice. The really good students at those schools, they already got job offers by the summer of their junior year because large firms are in there recruiting aggressively already. So realistically, I would look to local programs. I would look to, we'll call it some lesser known programs. There are upwards of 200 registered programs now with the CFP board, over 100 degree granting institutions. So there's a whole lot more than the few that you tend to read about in the magazines. You can look them up on CFP board's website. So you might go to some of those schools. There are a couple of job listing sites. CFP Board has a career center. NAPFA has job listings. FPA National has a jobs board. A couple of chapters. FPA chapters have local jobs boards. Now, I'm also biased, but I would have to point out we also have a business that does this called New Planner Recruiting, where we maintain a job board for candidates who are looking so they can find the job opportunities. And for firms that want to hire, we run the hiring process for you. Because the reality is finding a good paraplanner, actually, particularly when you're a solo advisor hiring your first professional staff member, a lot of what constitutes a good paraplanner actually depends on your own work style. Most advisors do this wrong. They try to do what I call, they hire the mini-me. They try to hire another person just like them to do the same things. But the problem is your business is probably bottlenecking because you already do what you do really well. You need someone to do the other stuff that you don't like doing. So if you're a great big picture person, you need to hire a details and follow through person. If you're a slow, methodical, don't adopt things very quickly and you're lagging on technology because you need to hire a quick start who likes to drive new projects. So actually a huge part of our process in New Planner Recruiting is just putting both existing advisors through a personality profile of what their own work style is, and then we screen candidates based on that personality and work style assessment to make sure there's a complementary fit with each other, in addition to just screening for sheer technical competency. But the big thing to remember is this isn't a business developer hire. And I find a lot of advisors, particularly have been in this business for a long time, when everybody started out with a cubicle and a phone book, that there's this mentality that everybody you hire should be hitting the phones or hitting the streets and trying to bring in clients. That is not a paraplanner. That's a salesperson. Frankly, I don't think you're going to have a lot of luck if you hire a 22-year-old salesperson in this environment. If you want to do that, that's your prerogative. But if you're hiring a paraplanner, it's about hiring someone to do that financial planning work so that you, as the business owner, can go out there and do business development and get more clients. Because frankly, you own the firm. You have the primary incentive anyways. You get efficiency and improvement in margins by hiring, but you're not hiring these people to get the clients for you. That's your job. So kind of getting back to Eric's question, where you're trying to figure out between admin staff and paraplanner, the first thing I'd actually put back as the question to you is, what are you actually trying to do in the long run? Are you trying to build a business? Then you probably want a paraplanner. If you're trying to build a stable income producing practice, you probably want to hire admin support that's more likely to stick with you for the long run. Now, the fact that you've gotten this far already without hiring someone means you're probably pretty good at adopting technology. And frankly, I think that further emphasizes why if you have any inclination towards growth, you'll probably want a paraplanner, because I suspect the reason you haven't hired admin staff already is you've gotten efficient with technology so that you don't need that admin staff. So the paraplanner will probably add more value. But don't do it until or unless you're ready to grow, or you're really just hiring a person who's going to leave you in a couple of years. So I hope that helps a little in kind of understanding the landscape of paraplanners, what they do, how they add value to the business. This is Office Hours with Michael Kitces, 1 p.m. East Coast time on Tuesdays. Thanks for joining, everyone, and have a great day.